Good morning and welcome to the daily cyber briefing for Thursday, the 7th of November. I'm Stephen Ridgway. I'm sure you're all either terribly upset or terribly pleased about the outcome of the election in the US. Lots of things about what may or may not happen in the future. Very little about whether there's going to be any impact at all in the cybersecurity world. So we'll wait and see what President Trump does in that particular area. Right. Cisco has addressed a critical bug in their what are called UWRB access points. Right, so URWB, is that right? Have I got that the right way around? Yeah, hang on. In this article, they've written it both ways around. Right, they're ultra reliable wireless backhaul access points. So, securityaffairs.com, there's a typo in your strapline for this, or your headline rather for this. So ultra reliable wireless backhaul access points, they're used for industrial wireless automation. Never used them personally, but my understanding is that where you need to connect industrial systems via wireless, these are devices that will do exactly what it says. They backhaul to the one particular area's network to another. There are vulnerabilities in the web management interface. Now there's an. Is this a case of deja vu? So yeah, we'll come on to that in a minute. There's so there are vulnerabilities in the web-based management interface, which could allow unauthenticated remote attackers to perform command injection with root privileges on the underlying operating system. There are only specific models that are affected by this, and there's in fact there are three: the Catalyst, IW9165D, IW9165E, and IW9167E access points. If you want to know if you want to check whether your device, if you are using these, is vulnerable, you can use the show mpls-config command, which will give you and provide information about the whether the URWB mode is enabled on the device and whether the device is vulnerable or not. So definitely worth a check there. Interesting theme here that over the years, a surprising number of vulnerabilities in Cisco kit have been found in the web management interfaces of these devices. Now, generally, not always, generally, in my experience, there are other ways in which you can manage devices as central management. Cisco kit is enterprise class kit. It is rare that you have to manage Cisco kit directly via a web interface on the device itself. Normally, there are all the commands you can get through the web interface are accessible via a command line if you have to get onto the device. And Cisco has a tendency to try and make everything behave like it's behave like it's a router and have iOS type command interface, even if it's not running IOS in the background. But it doesn't matter. The fact is that there are ways you can do this stuff through SSH or console session or whatever it might be. But even better than that, there is normally a method by which you can centralize the management of these systems anyway. So as a piece of advice for good practice with Cisco Kit, unless you have a very good business reason to have the web interface enabled on your Cisco Kit, don't enable it. It crops up too often. I believe that this is an issue based around lack of proper input validation to the web portal on the devices, which is a very simple vulnerability. And really one of those things that I'm surprised, given Cisco's position in the market as taking security seriously, I'm surprised that we continually come up against these issues in the web management interfaces. Not specifically criticizing them for that, because a lot of other organizations also suffer from this. However, it does kind of lead you to believe that they're not putting sufficient security testing into those interfaces. Would have thought they'd have learned the lesson by now. Anyway, specific point, if you're using these devices and you're using them in ultra reliable wireless backhaul mode, check to make sure that you're not vulnerable to this. And if you are and you can't apply patches at the moment, make sure you've got some mitigating controls around that, and absolutely try to get visibility of what's happening on the device into your SIEM or your security visibility tool. So Information Security Buzz is reporting on a study by which, so UK-based listeners will undoubtedly be aware of which. It's a consumer rights organisation that does a lot of testing of things. Well, it looks like the Which organisation, Which researchers have been looking at what happens to data from everyday smart devices. And they, as I say, they're looking at everything from air fryers to televisions. We are, I'm sure, in our industry, aware of the fact that these devices are collecting more data than they should be, but it's not easy to get access to decent research that demonstrates conclusively what's going on in this space. Well, this is that research. So this is a very interesting article from some very interesting research. They have shown quite conclusively that many consumer smart devices are collecting far more data than is needed for their particular function, and that a surprising percentage of that data is being sent for processing in on servers in parts of the world that we may be, or we should be, a little concerned about. So good examples of this are air fryers. Okay. Asking permission to know precise locations and record audio. does the air fryer really need to know where it is in order to function? And unless unless you are going to control it by giving it voice commands, which, I mean, really, there is absolutely no reason for it to record audio. In fact, you wouldn't even expect it to have a microphone, right? So the fact that it's asking for permissions to record audio is not good. A lot of the data is then found to be sent to third party or associated with third party trackers, TikTok's ad network, Facebook, Tencent, and so on. Smartwatches also come out as being somewhat concerning in this space. For example, Huawei Ultimate Smartwatch requires 9 what are defined as risky permissions: precise location, audio recording, access to stored files, and so on and so forth. Now, you could argue that those things are needed for the functionality of a smartwatch. If that's the case and you're happy with that, then absolutely fine. If the functionality outweighs your the risks that you perceive around your data being processed in China, then that's absolutely fine. But I'm willing to bet that very few wearers of Huawei smartwatches have done a personal risk assessment, even at a very superficial level, as part of their decision to use the features, grant the permissions, or to use that particular model of smartwatch rather than something else. So the article is calling for stricter regulations. I think that's an interesting concept around whether regulations are really what we need. But I think personal view would be that providing information about where the data goes and who's processing it would be a very good step, so that at least then you can make an informed decision about whether you want your air fryer to be recording your conversations or not. The UK's Information Commissioner's Office, ICO, is due to be releasing guidelines for smart product manufacturers in spring next year, which of course has called for robust enforcement measures, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's part of the general approach in the UK that citizens of the UK are too bloody stupid to make their own minds up given information, and that we require legislators and lawyers and judges to make these decisions for us, especially if those bodies making these decisions can be non-governmental, unelectable, and generally unaccountable to Parliament or citizens themselves. Yes. Right, political rant over. Next article. So finally from me today, JFrog has uncovered critical vulnerabilities in machine learning platforms. So JFrog are a software supply chain company. They have been looking at vulnerabilities in machine learning, open source machine learning related software projects. They've discovered so far 22 vulnerabilities across 15 projects. So you are in the business of using open source machine learning tooling, and you are busily working to integrate AI and ML or adopt it into your organization. Just have a little read of this, because it gives you some very solid ideas around things you should be looking to consider from a security perspective as part of doing that. there are some interesting statistics that come out of research by JFrog. Organizations who've been surveyed around their use of AI models have pointed out that the large percentage of organizations using or looking to adopt them, AI models, are concerned about and aware of security issues in the AI models, but lack the ability to fix them. 57% of organizations say the lack of integration between AI or ML security and existing security programs leads to potential blind spots. And only around 39% feel confident in their ability to secure AI or ML. So if you are in the business of looking to build AI or machine learning into your line of business or your systems, that definitely be aware of the fact that security in this space is not at the same the understanding of security and the processes and procedures around securing things in this space are not as mature as the rest of cybersecurity or information security. So the onus, I guess, is on you as users and developers of these things to ensure that you are thinking about how this stuff is going to be secured. And as I've always said, I end up coming back to this quite regularly, but make sure that the decisions involve business risk assessment. Don't just stick with a technical risk assessment or a cyber risk assessment, because those will almost, certainly in this space, will invariably point to, if you actually know what you're talking about, the answer is going to be, well, actually, the risks are pretty high that some of the vulnerabilities or issues are going to be found in this stuff. The question has got to be, does that actually matter? Given the nature of these models, possibly for a lot of organizations, possibly. But ensuring that your information security strategies are focused firmly on addressing business risk has got to be the right way forward. Okay, that's all from me for Thursday.